So as a customer, when you purchase these technologies, it really makes sense to engage with energy-efficient technologies. However, what we see on the market, and this is across the globe, companies engage with systems which are 40 to 60% less energy efficient than the best technologies they have access to their respective markets. Hello everybody, and nice to meet you, and thank you to Gen2 and to Acid Rush for the invitation today. It's a pleasure to see so many faces after months and months of lockdown. So at Base, what do? We develop innovative financial mechanisms and business models to accelerate investments into renewable energy, energy efficiency, and climate-driven solutions. So why do we do this? It's because we know we are on a ticking clock, and we need to reach our climate targets. So when you look at these three pillars, today I will present one pillar in particular, which is related to energy efficiency, and one model that we've designed to help achieve more energy efficiency across the globe. So when you look at energy efficiency, an equipment that consumes a lot of energy, naming, for instance, cooling, heating, lighting, even though it doesn't appear, it consumes a lot of energy. When you look at the whole life cycle of those equipments, 10, 15 years, and you implement a system that is more energy efficient, 30 to 40%, the savings you can achieve are actually sometimes 80 or 90%. So as a customer, when you purchase these technologies, it really makes sense to engage with energy efficient technologies. However, what we see on the market, and this is across the globe, whether you look at Europe, US, Latin America, Africa, or Asia, companies engage with systems, for instance, when you look at cooling, which are 40 to 60% less energy efficient than the best technologies they have access to their respective markets. Now, why is this happening? It's because as a customer, when you purchase a new technology, you see the risk really high because you don't know what is the performance of the system. It's typically more expensive to buy. And as well, you have shareholders, so you want to provide investments which within 5 years bring value to your shareholders. So how, as a company, can you engage with these technologies that you don't really know the performance from? So this is where we come in, and we design mechanisms that help shift that risk bubble further to the right or to the left, depends how you look at this graph, and make these investments more appealing. One model that we designed to do this is called as a service or servitisation, and in this particular case, we call it equipment as a service. Why? Because, and actually it's not a new model, it's a model we've been using for centuries, even though we don't really realize. So I guess everybody in the room drinks milk, but we don't own a cow, right? Or we shift on the electricity, but you don't own a power plant. Well, it's exactly the same with these equipments. And this model has actually been applied in the industry for quite some years in particular equipments. One of them, which is quite famous, is the printer as a service, which you all know, or more recently, solar panels with PPAs. However, what we've seen is that it's not common on technologies which are using a lot of energy. Typically heating, which you see at the bottom of the graph, cooling or lighting. And we've been, for the past 2 years, working in these sectors to help them shift the curve up and apply cooling as a service. So how does it work? As a customer, typically, you would purchase a technology, but in this particular scenario, you would rather actually pay for the service that you use, and the provider keeps the ownership of the equipment, controls it, implements it, maintains it, pays for the electricity. So as a result, the technology which is more energy efficient becomes highly price competitive compared to technologies which are potentially cheaper to buy up front, but when you look at the whole life cycle, they are very expensive to operate. So how does it work? The good news is that at the back end, you can implement financial structures which are very standard in the financial industry. One example here is a company can set up a special purpose vehicle whereby they sign efficiency as a service contract with the customer. They can potentially bundle several customers together so that the cost of financing becomes more appealing. They sign this contract and they provide the service to the customer. But of course, since the provider doesn't sell the equipment, the amount of cash that they receive as an entity is lower because they receive money as recurrent revenues. As a result, they need to collaborate with financiers through lease and sale and leaseback mechanism or other mechanisms to help them recapitalize on their asset and their project. So you will ask me, is this already happening around the world? And the good news is yes. As an entity base, we actually first always focus on markets which are more difficult to access financially. So we've applied cooling as a service, for instance, in South America, the Caribbean, in several countries in Africa and in Asia. And now we're bringing this model in Europe. And we have already projects ongoing because we see, okay, if it works in a country, for instance, like Nigeria, there's no reason why it wouldn't work in Spain or in Italy or in north of Europe. Here you have an example with a project actually in India where there was a customer with a very big shopping mall and they had an old system consuming a lot of energy for cooling. And one of our partners called Care approached the customer and they said, you know, I will retrofit your whole system. You don't need to pay a dime. I will just provide you with a fee per usage as you use the equipment. As a result, the customer actually directly benefited from state-of-the-art technology that was powered by solar panels in a country like India where the grid is quite, as we know, dirty, so it's not a clean grid, but as well benefited from cost savings, fully controlled maintenance, so no risk technology-wise for the customer to engage with the solution. And now the benefit is that the vendor keeps control of that technology. So it means as they are improving the technologies in their portfolio, they can continuously bring that technology into the system. So how do we work as BASE? So I briefly said it earlier, but we are a non-profit, and we collaborate with a lot of multilateral development banks, development agencies, private equity funds, or impact funds to develop these models, bring them to market, and then ideally, as an entity, we step back and we educate the vendors on how to implement this model. And this is where you come in as financiers, and we would like to connect you with those vendors to help those opportunities to scale up in a cost-effective manner. So thank you very much, and I have a booth somewhere there. Pleasure to answer any questions you have.